Hey everyone, this is Steve from the Seller CPA, your e-commerce CPA. Today I'm going to be talking about bookkeeping for Amazon sellers, and this video is going to be focused primarily on those just getting started out. You just formed your LLC, it's your first year in business. What should you do to start tracking the numbers? In this video I'm going to cover a couple different options. One is going to be Sellerboard, one is going to be InventoryLab, one is going to be Spreadsheets, and one is going to be QuickBooks. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about what QuickBooks is and what QuickBooks isn't, and kind of when you should transition to QuickBooks and if you should or shouldn't outsource to a professional bookkeeping firm like ours. Most first-year sellers are going to be single-member LLCs, and the focus on your bookkeeping needs should be getting your tax return done and making sure you're making a profit. You don't want to get to the end of the year and find out, oh, I'm scrambling around to grab numbers from my CPA so I can do my taxes. And you also don't want to just be looking at your bank account and say, oh, there's more money in there than when I started, so I must be making money. No, you need to track a profit and loss and be able to tell when you've earned a profit, because profit is what's taxable when it's recognized, not necessarily when you take it out of the business. So even if you reinvest that money in the business, into inventory to grow it, you're still taxed on profit when it's recognized. So stick around, and I'm going to go over a couple different options that I think will be great for getting you started for your first year. The first method I'm going to cover is the spreadsheet method. Now this is the least ideal method, and this is only to be used if you don't have any other software that you've used to calculate your profit and loss, and you just need to pull something together to give you an idea if you're making money and to do taxes. So I give this template to single member LLCs and even some small partnerships and S-corps when they're just getting started out if they haven't done any bookkeeping, because quite frankly it's much harder for me to kind of figure out their own method of spreadsheets than having them put it into my template. So if you plan on working with us and you haven't done any bookkeeping, please request this template if you don't plan on using any other software. You can find a link to this template in the description. So the first thing that you want to do is go to Amazon Seller Central and pull a report called the Amazon Summary Report. So you go over here to Payments, and then you go to Reports Repository. That'll bring you to this page, and then you go to account type and select from that all unified reports, account or report type summary, and then the custom range, and this is for the tax year. Then you click request report, and you'll have a PDF ready to download. The PDF looks like this. You're going to need a couple numbers off this. So this is the Amazon total sales, and this is the returns and allowances, and this is your FBA fees. Now FBA fees would include advertising if you are paying through your settlements, which I'm not. I pay directly by credit card. So you would make sure if you were paying through the settlements and there was an amount here for cost of advertising, you would net that out and remove that from the total fees when you're entering into the template. Okay, so you go over to the template, you go to the income line. That's where I've entered the total Amazon sales, and then the returns and allowances, that gives you your net sales. And then I've entered the Amazon FBA fees here. And then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go over and enter your cost of goods sold. So if you're just starting out, your beginning inventory will be 0. Your purchases are whatever the total purchases in inventory that you made during the year. And then you have to have an ending inventory value. So you have to determine your cost at the end of the year, because Amazon will not tell you that. You're going to have to know what your unit costs are and what quantities you have. Amazon has no idea what your costs are. Okay, so you're going to have to do your total at the end of the year to enter this number. Once you enter this number, it's automatically going to calculate your cost of goods sold, which is going to go over to this tab, and then it's going to give you a gross profit, right? So you have your sales minus your returns and allowances, your net sales minus your fees, and your cost of goods sold is your gross profit, and then from there you deduct your operating expenses. So on this sheet, there's two different sections. One, and this is specifically for tax reasons, if you buy equipment less than $2,500, you can elect to deduct it in the same year rather than depreciate over 5 to 7 years. So let's say you purchased a laptop, you would enter that here. And then you have other expenses, like if you paid Amazon seller ads directly with a credit card, you would enter that here, and you would enter all your other expenses in the line items that I've organized. And this is really helpful because these are generally the types of categories that you would see on the tax return. Those will automatically come over to these line items here and total your expenses and deduct it from your gross profit and give you a net profit. So that is how to use a spreadsheet to calculate your net profit. Next method I'm going to cover is InventoryLab. Now, I really like InventoryLab, and I've personally been using it for many years, and I think it's so easy because it forces you to enter your unit costs when you ship new products to Amazon, and then it automatically calculates your P&L. So if you're an Amazon only seller, this is a really good option. Plus, it does inventory in FIFO, which means first in, first out, based on cost layers, right? So if you have a product that you spent $5 on and later on it cost $5.50, you're going to enter the 5 when you first ship the product and enter the $5.50 when you next ship the product, and it's going to sell off all the $5 products before it sells the $5.50 products. So you're going to get pretty accurate cost of goods sold. So let me show you how it works here. Let's say you wanted to send a new product into Amazon. All you have to do is paste in the ASIN, and here's a product that I sell, and let's say I want to replenish it. Okay, so it's going to ask how many do you want to send in and what your unit cost is. Okay, so this is your landed cost. How much exactly do you pay for this product? And then based on how much you paid for this product to get it to you or get it to the warehouse, it's going to tell you what your estimated net profit and ROI is per unit. Okay, and then all you have to do is click add to batch. So that's essentially all you have to do every time you send in product to get accurate cost of goods sold. Now, there is another option to enter other expenses and mileage as well, which is really nice. So if you go to other expenses, and let's say you pay for a subscription software every single month, you can click add, and then you can select the category, and you can make new categories, and you can put an amount, and you can put a description, and you could put it repeating as monthly. Okay, so if you have other expenses that you routinely pay or pay on a one-off basis, like supplies and things like that, you can enter them here, and then it'll automatically brought into your P&L. And then the beauty, of course, is you have an inventory valuation at any given time. You can see what's inbound, what's Amazon fulfilled, what's merchant fulfilled, giving you a total value of inventory. And then at any given time, in real time, you can run your profit and loss report. Okay, so as of January 2025, I can see my profit is $2,490.62, and I did nothing to pull this report together. All I did was made sure unit costs were entered when I shipped the product, but everything else, including all the fees and all the sales and everything from Amazon, is automatically pulled in, so that when you're ready to do your taxes at the end of the year, all you have to do is change this to yearly, change it to the correct year, click view, and then go ahead and click export to export your profit and loss and send it to your accountant for the year. So that's a really good option if you're looking for a software to help you with this, and it's better than the spreadsheet method, and it's something that you can look at every single month to know whether you're making money or not. And I think it's only about $69 a month. Now, this next option I'm going to talk about is Sellerboard. Now, Sellerboard is actually cheaper than InventoryLab, but it doesn't have FIFO inventory, so your cost of goods sold might not be as accurate. What's really nice for this is that it has different integrations such as Shopify, eBay, Walmart, and other things. So if you're selling on multiple channels, it's better than InventoryLab because InventoryLab doesn't have the option to integrate with multiple channels. But as far as the P&L functionality goes, it's pretty good because if you see here, it calculates for each month what your P&L is, and it'll bring in your cost of goods sold. Now it's going to show 0 right here because I haven't entered any cost of goods sold because I'm not actively using Sellerboard, but it does have the same options for entering other expenses as well. Now, the cost of goods sold functionality is a little bit different, and depending on how much effort you want to put into it, that determines the accuracy of your cost of goods sold. But you can export this report and send it directly to your accountant at year end, and if you're a single member LLC, relatively simple business, it should be good enough. If you click on this expenses tab, you can see here you can enter a one-time expense or a recurring expense, and you can create the category, and then that will show up on your P&L. Now, in terms of cost of goods sold, if you go to this products page, you could see that none of my products have any cost assigned, but you have the option to do constant or by period, batch, and marketplace. If you do constant, that means your cost of goods sold is going to be the same all the time. And if it is relatively constant, it might not be the worst thing in the world. And if you want to do by period, batch, and marketplace, that's going to re-average your unit costs every single time. So if you go and get a product that cost $5 and later it cost $5.50, then it's going to recalculate the new average. If everything's in stock, it's going to create a weighted average, but if everything was still in stock, then it will be $5.25, and then it would calculate how many units were sold, and then you can run your P&L. So that's Sellerboard, and it's a good option for those that are selling on multiple platforms. The next software I'm going to show you is QuickBooks Online. Now, the reason why I say that you shouldn't jump directly into QuickBooks Online is because this software is really made for accountants and bookkeepers, and unless you have some very good training on how to use the system, it can easily be messed up. It's not very intuitive like these other softwares, InventoryLab and Sellerboard, that I showed you. So unless you really know what you're doing, I don't recommend it, and I certainly don't recommend it if you're just starting out unless you're outsourcing it to a professional. The reason why is because 95% of the time when I've reviewed somebody's QuickBooks that they prepared by themselves is it's inaccurate or it's not up to date. And accuracy is very important. In order to have accurate financials, you have to reconcile every single month to your bank and credit card statements, and you have to keep it up to date manually. There is some automation, but there's a lot of manual work that needs to be done, and it is far superior than an InventoryLab or a Sellerboard system, but it needs to be kept up to date to be accurate. One of the principal benefits of using a software like this is it pulls the transactions in directly from your credit cards and bank accounts. So if you look here, you'll see that there's these different cards, and these show your different accounts, and they pull the transactions directly into what's called the bank feed for review. Unlike the other software where you have to manually enter expenses, it's going to bring every single expense on a card that you use for the business directly into the bank feed, so that you have to select a category and choose where it's going to go. Okay, so after you select a category, then later on you'll do what's called a reconciliation, where you'll grab the statement and you'll enter the ending balance and the ending date and reconcile to make sure all the correct transactions are recorded and only the correct transactions are recorded. So that's very important to keeping it up to date. The other thing that this is very powerful is it's more than just a profit and loss report, but it's full financials. So it includes a balance sheet. What is a balance sheet and why is it important? So a balance sheet is your assets, liabilities, and owner equity. If you're an S Corp or a multi-member LLC that has more than $250,000 in revenue, you are going to be required to have a balance sheet on your tax return. And that is not something that can be produced by Sellerboard or InventoryLab. So even if you're using those systems just to track day to day, you're not going to be able to give your accountant a balance sheet so they can prepare your tax return. So that's why a balance sheet is very important, and that's why once people get to $250,000 in revenue, they should really consider outsourcing the bookkeeping so that they have that accurate balance sheet. Plus, you're going to want to know what your assets, liabilities, and owner equity is to see if your business is solvent and if you have appropriate working capital. If you click into the profit and loss report in QBO, you'll see that I have a lot of Amazon transactions up at the top here. But the thing about QBO is that this data is not automatically going to come into QBO, and you're also going to have the option of QuickBooks Commerce, but it's really not a good solution because it's not very accurate and they're way behind software like A2X. So I use a software called A2X to bring the data in. So if you click on that Amazon sales, you can see it's not just deposits that come in to my bank account, because if you just record deposits, you're not properly recognizing revenue, and if you report your tax return like that, you're going to way under report and you're going to have a mismatch with your 1099. So click on any one of these transactions and you'll see that there's a lot of underlying data behind it, and the money that was actually deposited into the account was 1626, but you can see Amazon sales are much higher than that, and there's all types of other transactions for fees, returns, and other things. So proper revenue recognition is important, and the other thing that A2X can help you with is cost of goods sold. And if you're using an inventory management system or something like that, it can directly pull cost of goods sold from there. But the way it works is it's going to look at the unit cost assigned in A2X, and it's going to bring it over here and match it with the revenue. And so why else would you want to use QuickBooks Online? Well, if you're an S Corp and you have a payroll requirement, you want to use something like Gusto, and then you want to integrate payroll, which will automatically bring the expense into your P&L. And if you're a partnership and you have to keep track of capital accounts, it's super important that everybody's contributions to the account get properly allocated to their capital account, and their share of the profit gets properly allocated to them every year. Otherwise, your capital accounts will be completely off. But what is QuickBooks not? So one of the things that QuickBooks is not is an inventory management system. So a lot of people that get started out using QuickBooks, they start trying to enter the actual unit costs and quantities of inventory in QuickBooks Online, and it's really not good for that. There are situations where you might want to use that, but not for e-commerce. There's much better solutions out there. So that's what QuickBooks is not, and it's also, again, not something that you should try to do by yourself unless you have very good training. Now, this is pretty simplistic in terms of the P&L, but what's more powerful is all the transactions are in here, and you can pull these things out into other systems that will be able to analyze cash flow and really go beyond just a simple P&L analysis. The other thing is, if you're starting to get vendor credits, you have the options of entering bills, paying bills. If you're doing wholesale sales, you can invoice your customers and you can collect through QuickBooks payments. So it really is a fully featured accounting system, and it's much more powerful. Well, hopefully you found that helpful. If you want to work directly with us, go ahead and check out the link in the description. And if you found this content helpful, subscribe, because I'll be producing content like this every week.